So in that book, you argued that the choice of colonial languages as official languages has resulted in the creation of two classes of citizens. And you label those classes of citizens the included versus the excluded. Now, 25 years after the publication of this book, how do you analyze the relationship between these, colonial, some people call them ex-colonial languages, and the indigenous languages of, let's say, Nigeria and Africa?
Well, the so-called colonial languages, which I politely refer to as imported languages, these languages are dominant by the very reason that they are official languages. Because when there's an official language, all the activities in government are done in that language. It is the language in which things are recorded, in which business is conducted, in which parliament operates, in which banks, health, and all these other things are done. It also involves education, because beyond the earliest levels, primary 1, 2, 3, and so on, most schools move over to English in the case of Nigeria. So you can see that unless you go to school, unless you are educated as such, then you just cannot be among the included. You are basically excluded. Now, and the excluded includes not only the illiterates who cannot read and write, it also includes the out-of-school children. They start and they drop out.
Yeah.
So the question which arises is it possible to say that these people who are excluded are in any way included in any form? Now, when I wrote the book 24 years ago, the English language was very, very dominant in Nigeria. The change that has taken place is very minimal.
Mm.
You now find people who insist on Yoruba being taught, even in secondary schools. People take degrees in Yoruba in universities, but that's marginal as far as I'm concerned. I'm more concerned about the generality of the people who have to interact in our economy.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the local market economy that these people can function and use their language.
Yeah.
I go to the market in a village and I want to buy yams,
Mm-hmm.
no problem, because I can use my language.
Yeah.
But the problem arises when you have to move beyond that and you go to an urban area, you have to go to the bank,
Mm-hmm.
you have to, in fact, these days there are many things that happen and they say you must register your phone.
Yes.
You must register your personal number, national identity number.
Yeah.
I know people who have not been able to do this.
Yes.
Because they just cannot function.
Yes.
In this way. So the question of exclusion is a very serious matter, and
Yeah.
it continues. That's the main point I want to make.
So basically, the choice of a language as an official language results in creating a section of the citizenry that cannot function in the development of the country.
Precisely.
They cannot participate. There's an issue of participation.
Precisely.
And if you have, I don't know what the percentage of Nigerians who are comfortable using English is. But if we say, for example, that is around 25%, that would mean that 75% of the population is excluded from participating in the development of the country.
You mean those speak English?
Yeah,
those
who speak
English
English
will be
and who can.
25%.
Yeah, I'm just giving a figure.
That is very generous, my dear. Very generous. Although, you know what I often say.
Yeah.
When you do the census,
Yeah.
for those who speak English,
Yeah.
there are market women who will
Yeah.
say to you, customer, come. Very nice,
Yes.
nice oranges.
Yes.
That person speaks English, right?
Yes.
But that's the repertoire is limited to only that place.
Yes, exactly.
The people who really can function well in English are probably 10%.
That is scary.
That's, yeah, about maybe 10%. Because as we were saying before,
Yeah.
there are people who claim to speak English.
Yeah.
They're knowledgeable English, but they are really not.
Yes.
I once mentioned the case of members of parliament,
Yeah.
National Assembly,
Yeah.
who are where the language of communication of proceedings is English.
Yeah.
And they're there, they're elected by their people.
Yeah.
They're supposed to represent their people.
Yeah.
Sponsor bills, make motions.
Yeah.
If, contribute to debates.
Yeah.
And we have seen cases of people who have spent 4 years without saying anything. Just sit there, they are bench warmers.
In
Now,
parliament.
if you are counting people, you say that man is one of the people who can speak English.
Yeah.
But truly, he cannot.
So you have people who have a 4-year term in the National Assembly.
And they don't say anything.
A single word.
Well, let me correct myself when I say they don't say anything.
Yeah.
When you put a motion,
Yeah.
those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. That's English.
That's English.
that's the limit of their English.
So wow. So they don't even have the English. I mean, they don't, function in the language of communication in
Precisely,
the National Assembly.
precisely.
But how do they campaign then? So they campaign in their
or they campaign in the local language.
in the local language.
Oh yes.
And they get to the National Assembly where things really happen.
Yes. And they also add a sweetener, which is you give them something.
You give them something to